Have you ever stopped to wonder if the choices you make each day are truly yours, or if they've already been written for you, long before you even thought about them? The story begins long ago, with strange marks etched into temple walls, with symbols carved into palaces, with rituals whispered in the courts of kings. And yet, those same patterns appear today, not in stone, but on the glowing screens we consume every single day. Hidden signs that pass before our eyes so quickly that we hardly notice them, and yet they stay imprinted. The so-called forgotten archives of Vienna, dated 1962, speak of experiments where subliminal images were used to stir emotion, to trigger obedience, to condition entire groups of people. For decades, we've been told these studies were abandoned, that they were nothing more than failed attempts from the Cold War era. But can we really believe that something so powerful, so effective, was simply locked away and forgotten? Or is it more likely that what began as experiment became strategy, refined, perfected, and hidden in plain sight? Mind control does not always announce itself with wires and machines. Sometimes it comes in flashes of light, in rhythms of sound, in repetition of symbols that you've seen so often. You no longer even question them. Secret societies have always known that rituals gain strength when repeated. And if repetition works in the secrecy of a lodge, imagine its effect when broadcast daily through music videos, commercials, and entertainment that reaches billions. Have you ever felt that sudden pull towards something you didn't plan to want? That sense of déjà vu when you see an image, a sign, a gesture? What if that sensation is not random, but the result of a design you were never meant to notice? What you'll discover here may surprise you, because once the veil is lifted, you'll see how deep the manipulation runs, how carefully the unseen has crafted our reality. Stay close as we peel back the layers. And if you're ready to step into this awakening, write in the comments, "I see the hidden signs," because the symbols are there, waiting to be decoded. And this is only the beginning. The name Illuminati is often dismissed as a myth, a story invented to explain the inexplicable. But when you trace its origin, something unsettling emerges. Founded in 1776 in Bavaria, the order claimed to stand for reason and enlightenment. Yet, behind the public mask, whispers spoke of rituals, oaths, and hidden symbols designed not to liberate minds, but to control them. And although historians insist the group dissolved within a few years, fragments of evidence suggest otherwise. Because secret societies rarely disappear, they transform, adapt, and slip into the shadows of new structures. In 1978, confidential files discovered in Rome described meetings of groups bearing striking resemblance to the original order. Not revolutionaries in cloaks, but men in tailored suits, executives and officials whose influence reached governments and global media. The symbols they carried were familiar: the pyramid, the eye that never closes, the hidden codes etched into art, finance, and culture. How curious that the same emblems once carved into ancient temples now appear in modern music videos, on award stages, and even on the very currency exchanged by billions every day. If this is just aesthetics, why does the same imagery echo across centuries? Hidden symbols are not ornaments, they are signatures, carrying meaning for those initiated into forbidden knowledge. When a pyramid crowns a dollar bill, when an artist flashes the triangle hand sign on stage, when corporations cloak their logos in geometric precision, these are not accidents of design. They are fragments of an occult ritual carried forward, disguised as creativity, repeated until the subconscious accepts them without question. Mind control thrives on repetition, and the more the masses are exposed to these patterns, the deeper the psychological influence becomes. Secret societies have always relied on the unseen. Their rituals are not performed for the eyes of the many, but for the energy of the few. Yet in the modern age, their stage has expanded. Through film, television, and digital screens, the ritual can be broadcast globally, wrapped in entertainment, cloaked in irony, dismissed as conspiracy by those unwilling to see. But for those who dare to notice, the shadows reveal a structure, a dark agenda disguised as art, a manipulation hidden in plain sight. Write in the comments, "I will not be controlled." Have you ever asked yourself why the same dates, the same signs, the same coded gestures repeat across generations? Why an ancient order supposedly buried 2 centuries ago still leaves fingerprints on the architecture of our culture? What if the Illuminati never vanished, but simply evolved, merging with financial institutions, media empires, and entertainment industries to ensure their influence remained intact? What if every song, every show, every broadcast is not only a product, but a piece of programming designed to condition thought on a scale too vast to imagine? But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper, because if these patterns are not coincidence, if these conspiracies truly stretch from the 18th century to the present day, then we must ask, how far does the network extend? And how much of what we call reality has already been shaped by forces we were never meant to see? The Tavistock Memorandum of 1989 is rarely spoken of in public, yet those who have read fragments describe something chilling. Not a simple study on human behavior, but a blueprint for conditioning masses through spectacle. It spoke of sound frequencies carefully arranged, dances choreographed to mimic ritual movements, and bursts of light designed to overwhelm the senses. What most believe to be entertainment, global award shows, stadium concerts, even the grand openings of sporting events, fit these descriptions almost perfectly. But the question is, are we celebrating culture, or are we unknowingly participants in rituals disguised as performance? Look closely at the imagery. Flames rising in choreographed circles, performers dressed as deities of forgotten pantheons, human figures suspended like puppets, strings visible under the stage lights. Critics call it art, yet the symbols align with ancient codes preserved in the archives of secret societies. Hidden symbols do not survive centuries by accident. They are preserved, transmitted, woven into new forms until they become invisible to the untrained eye. Occult rituals once conducted in secrecy now play out before millions, cloaked in music and light. And while the audience applauds, the subconscious absorbs. Mind control doesn't require chains. It requires repetition, rhythm, imagery. The crowd becomes a congregation, the stage becomes an altar, and the ritual is broadcast live into homes around the world. Psychological influence slips in between the beats of music, between flashes of fire and shadow, between the moments when we are most vulnerable, entranced, entertained, unaware. This is how hidden power extends its reach, not by open decree, but by programming thought itself. Have you noticed how certain symbols, once unsettling, now feel familiar? That comfort is the sign of manipulation at work. Write in the comments, "I will not be controlled." The truth is that secret societies have always thrived on this double face, the seen and the unseen. The spectacle dazzles the surface, while beneath it lies forbidden knowledge dressed as art. Every ceremony echoes older conspiracies. Every gesture mirrors ancient codes. And if these events are indeed modern liturgies, then billions have participated without ever realizing it. The dark agenda does not hide in darkness alone. It thrives under the brightest lights, where questioning feels absurd, where shadows are dismissed as conspiracy. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper, because if entire generations are being conditioned through rituals disguised as entertainment, then the real question is not whether it's happening, but how far this programming reaches, and who stands in the unseen, orchestrating every move. From Hollywood blockbusters to the most innocent children's cartoons, the repetition is undeniable. Skulls hidden in background art, puppets moving without strings, eyes burning with flames that appear for a second too long to be accidental. At first glance, they look like creative quirks, playful designs, but when you trace the history, a different picture begins to form. In 1994, what became known as the Montreal Archive described studies on children exposed to recurring imagery. The findings were unsettling. The more they saw these symbols, the more willing they became to accept authority without question. Subconscious conditioning, masked as entertainment. The symbols themselves are not random. The skull is an ancient code, a reminder of mortality used by secret societies to strip away resistance and instill obedience. The puppet represents the unseen strings of manipulation, an acknowledgement that what seems free may already be controlled. The flaming eye is perhaps the most powerful of all, a direct echo of the all-seeing eye, a symbol of hidden power that has traveled from temples to lodges to modern media. If these are coincidences, they are coincidences that have lasted for centuries, repeating with surgical precision. Mind control does not always feel like coercion. It feels like normalization. A child who sees the same hidden symbols over and over learns not to question them, learns to let them fade into the background of thought. That is the genius of psychological influence. It doesn't strike all at once. It builds slowly, silently, until the dark agenda becomes part of daily life. We laugh at the cartoon, we cheer at the movie, we buy the merchandise, never realizing we have just taken part in an occult ritual disguised as spectacle. Write in the comments, "I see the signs." And it is not only children. Adults too absorb the rhythm of repetition. A music video flashes marionettes against neon lights. A fashion brand slips a skull into its seasonal campaign. A blockbuster hero stares into a burning eye. The subconscious does not distinguish between fantasy and ritual. It only receives. And once received, the pattern becomes a part of thought, buried deep where it cannot easily be erased. Forbidden knowledge is not lost. It is rebranded, repackaged, sold through screens, accepted by billions. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper. Because if these hidden symbols are truly tools of manipulation, seeded into culture to condition entire generations, then the question is not whether they work, it is who designed the program, and how far their influence reaches into the unseen fabric of our reality. The story of mind control has always followed the evolution of technology. In the 1950s, when the CIA conducted its MK Ultra experiments, the focus was crude but revealing. Expose subjects to rapid images, dissonant sounds, low-frequency pulses. The results were disturbing. Emotions shifted without warning, memories bent under pressure. A person's will could be softened, reshaped, even broken, all without them ever understanding what was happening. Those files were later buried, redacted, dismissed as Cold War paranoia, but the methods did not vanish. They adapted, waiting for a new stage. Today, the altar is no longer a secret lab. It is the digital world. Social media feeds, streaming platforms, video recommendations. What once required electrodes and dark rooms now operates invisibly through code. Algorithms don't just suggest what you might like. They anticipate, they nudge, they redirect your attention with surgical precision. Hidden symbols no longer need to be flashed on a physical screen. They are embedded in infinite scrolls, in curated ads, in music that loops until it becomes second nature. The dark agenda has upgraded from candles and cloaks to AI-driven systems of surveillance and persuasion. Think about how effortlessly the cycle works. You watch one video and another appears. You pause on an image, and the platform learns your hesitation, your curiosity, your weakness. Slowly, the code shapes your reality, offering you not what you choose, but what you are designed to choose. This is manipulation at its most elegant. No force, no demand, only shadows guiding your path. The unseen pulling you along until the boundary between free will and programming disappears. Write in the comments, "I will not be controlled." The forbidden knowledge hidden in MK Ultra was never destroyed. It was digitized. Frequencies became algorithms. Subliminal frames became targeted ads. Psychological influence moved from underground chambers into the glow of every device. And with artificial intelligence analyzing every gesture, every preference, every silence, the conditioning becomes personalized. Each user, a subject in a global experiment. Each moment online, a ritual of participation in a system designed to mold collective thought. Secret societies once required physical lodges to enact their occult rituals. Now, the lodge is virtual, spread across billions of screens, with symbols, codes, and patterns repeated endlessly until they carve new truths into the collective mind. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper. Because if technology itself has become the new altar, then who are the priests guarding its codes? And how far does their hidden power extend into the unseen fabric of our lives? When you begin to connect the fragments, the hidden symbols etched into temples, the occult rituals disguised as entertainment, the algorithms shaping your digital feed, a pattern emerges. It is not random. It is not coincidence. It is a design refined across centuries, adapted to each age, yet always serving the same purpose: mind control. From the marble halls of Florence, where secret societies whispered forbidden knowledge, to the boardrooms of New York corporations, where strategies are written in code instead of ink, the invisible thread stretches unbroken. What looks like culture, progress, innovation, may in truth be the continuation of an ancient conspiracy moving silently through time. Secret societies have always known that power does not rest solely in armies or laws. True power is invisible. It lies in the shaping of thought, the bending of perception, the ability to make entire populations act against their own interests while believing it is their choice. Symbols became the first tools, ancient codes carved into walls, painted into frescoes, hidden in manuscripts. Rituals amplified their strength, binding groups in secrecy and loyalty. And now, technology has become the ultimate vessel. Screens that glow like modern altars, rituals enacted not in temples but in broadcasts watched by billions. What was once whispered in shadows is now projected in plain sight, but so cleverly disguised that few recognize it. Consider how seamless the manipulation feels. You walk through a city and see corporate logos shaped like eyes, triangles, and serpents. You turn on a concert and watch flames encircle dancers dressed as deities. You scroll on your phone and find content delivered to you with precision so uncanny it feels like magic. Each act alone feels harmless, but together they form the architecture of a dark agenda. A structure designed to influence your desires, your fears, your loyalties. And when the collective mind is aligned, even without realizing it, the unseen has achieved its goal. That is hidden power. That is psychological influence at its most dangerous. The Montreal studies of 1994 suggested children exposed to repeated hidden symbols grew more compliant, more open to authority. Decades later, we see a generation raised under the glow of constant repetition. Cartoons, music, films, all seeded with the same imagery. The puppet, the skull, the flaming eye. What if this is not our imitating history, but history reprogramming the present? What if entire generations have already been shaped to accept the unseen as normal, to allow forbidden knowledge to move unnoticed through their daily lives? Write in the comments, "I will not be controlled." The Tavistock Memorandum described rituals cloaked as entertainment. MK Ultra revealed how sound and image could fracture the psyche. The London and Rome archives pointed to networks of influence bridging governments, celebrities, and financial empires. Each piece alone could be dismissed, ridiculed, called coincidence. But when aligned, they form a picture too consistent to ignore. A game being played in shadows. A game designed not for one nation, not for one people, but for the entire world. A game of control. And so the question lingers. How many times have you already been moved by symbols you did not recognize, guided by rituals you thought were harmless, nudged by algorithms you assumed were neutral? How many of your choices were truly your own? And how many were the result of programming older than your lifetime? The truth is unsettling, but awakening begins by asking. Secret societies rely on silence. They thrive when the patterns remain unseen. Yet the moment the signs are noticed, the illusion cracks. And through that crack, light begins to pour. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper. Because if the game is this vast, if it stretches from temples in Florence to skyscrapers in New York, then who sits at its center? Who writes the ancient codes that shape the present? And more importantly, if you have already glimpsed the hidden structure once, can you ever look at the world the same way again? If you made it this far, you already know this was not just a story. What you've heard is a thread connecting symbols, rituals, and technology. A glimpse of forbidden knowledge that has shaped the collective mind for centuries. Truth like this rarely reaches the surface. And yet here you are at the end, carrying fragments of revelations most will never notice. That means you are part of a smaller circle now. The circle that chooses to see. To remain in that circle, you'll need to stay close. Subscribe, not as a casual act, but as a way of continuing the awakening. Each step forward uncovers another layer of the unseen. Each new chapter brings patterns into focus, patterns the dark agenda would prefer to keep hidden in shadows. Let your subscription be a quiet act of resistance, a sign that you choose not to remain blind to the conspiracies shaping the world around you. And I want you to leave a mark that you were here, at this moment, aware of what most dismiss. A comment, short but powerful, "I see the hidden truth." That phrase is more than text. It is a signal, an acknowledgement that you will not be lulled into silence, that manipulation loses its power the moment it is recognized. If these revelations resonated with you, if you felt the weight of what was unveiled, then let your like be more than a gesture. Let it stand as proof that the message reached you, that the connection was made. Each like is not just approval, it is energy, fueling the uncovering of more truths waiting in the shadows. This journey does not end here. What you've heard tonight is only a fragment of a larger story, a puzzle whose pieces are scattered across history, media, and hidden codes embedded in plain sight. The next video is not simply content, it is the next step in a ritual of awakening, a continuation of the revelations you've begun to see. Watch it not as entertainment, but as a key. Because the game of control is vast, And the deeper we go, the more the unseen comes into focus. Stay curious, stay watchful. The shadows hold more than you can imagine, and the truth is still unfolding.